let's jump right in. Don't want to take too much time off the top. I want to get to the important topics here today. Thanks everybody again for joining. Kind of a strange space here between the holidays, this first part of December. People coming and going from vacation, work might slow down a little bit. So figured this would be a good time to get into this, kind of talk about what's been going on with UpCurve and Google and Workspace. I'll have an agenda here in a bit that goes over that. And it's also a good time to be thinking about what's going to be coming up next year. As we're kind of in the slow period and we're planning and forecasting, it's important to reevaluate the tools that we're using and see how they're evolving and developing and how we're going to be able to continue to use them and integrate them into our businesses going forward for the next year. So with that being the case, let's jump right in. There will be a Q&A at the end. I do believe it's opened in the activities. If you'd like to use it, feel free to do so as we go through this. Again, thank you all for taking the time. It shouldn't be too long. This is only should be about an hour. There's a lot of content in it. We may finish up a little bit sooner, but again, thank you for joining us today. Today, you're going to be hearing from myself. I'm a senior director here at UpCurve Cloud. We also have Grace, who is a wonderful workspace engineer who's going to be speaking later, as well as Asher, who's in charge of small business for Workspace at Google, responsible for it. Agenda, we're going to go over Workspace in general, kind of the highlights, the different tier structures. If you may be unfamiliar with what's out there or what you have access to now, just want to briefly cover that. We're going to go over what's come up over the last year in Workspace, any relevant updates, and there has been quite a few, so it's a big section. And then we're going to get into some kind of general best practices for organizations and regarding Workspace and security and just things that you should be up to date on. And then we're going to take a deep dive, including a demo of Gemini for Google Workspace and how AI has changed our lives up to this point, and how it's going to continue to evolve within Google Workspace and Gemini itself. So Google Workspace, we like to think about it in these three categories here: connect, create, collaborate, and control. Google is constantly trying to make things easier for us. They want to make our day-to-day more accessible, our workflows more streamlined. And we see that in most recent updates, bringing Gmail, Calendar, Chat, Meet together more often. Those are becoming more feature-rich by the day, and we love to see that kind of progress. The editors, as all they always are, we love them, and they're doing exactly what we want them to do, and even more so with Gemini now. There'll be some examples of that later. But we'd like to see Gemini and AppSheet being added there. We want to see the product continue to have new features added to it and see that it's still getting the love that it always has. And that's what we're paying for. We want to see that return. And then control and security is more relevant than ever. The cybersecurity landscape continues to get more difficult to manage and prevent bad actors from accessing our sensitive company information. And Google just makes that easier through things like the new security center that everybody has access to, being able to run more advanced reports than we used to. We'll get into some of these updates here, but just a quick overview of the Workspace suite as a whole. Breaking that down into a little bit more detail, for those who are unfamiliar, there are two tiers of Workspace, or we can call them families, if you will. Workspace Business and Enterprise. The business is broken down into three tiers, as we see here: Starter, Standard, and Plus, and they each have varying features depending on your need. Some just important highlights. I won't go through all of this just because you can click on these individual links, and we will provide this information to you at a future date. But just some quick high-level overview of what the differences are that I know a lot of people find relevant and important. First thing is going to be storage. Business Starter, you have 30 gigabytes per user pooled. For a lot of organizations, especially larger, that may not be enough, and so it's an immediate need to start thinking about Business Standard at 2 terabytes. You do see that also includes some new features, specifically around Meet, searching, appointment booking, and calendar. Some nice things, some value adds to have. Business Plus is a pretty big step up in terms of functionality and usability and security as well. And that's mainly due to Google Vault, which is the native archiving and e-discovery tool within your Workspace account. That's great for having access to X users, offboarding, onboarding, just general management of data within your account. And then as you see at the top, 5 terabytes per user pooled. There is one difference between all the tiers, and that's also going to be shared drives. That does get a little bit granular on what those differences are, but to have the most capability of sharing an organization, definitely recommend the higher tiers of business in that regard. If we're a larger organization that's 300 seats or more, or if we are just thinking about our security posture and how we want to approach that in 2025 and evaluating how it currently stands, enterprise is definitely going to be top of mind if those things are relevant to you. Enterprise is where we really start seeing more features regarding accessibility into what's going on, or rather visibility. So we can see more advanced reporting in terms of file exposure reports. We can see how two-factor is working within our account. We can also dive deeper into those issues that are flagged either by the system or that we identify ourselves through things like the investigation tool. So we can choose a specific alert, see when it came in, who was affected by it, what the result was, and then take action accordingly. And we also want to prevent sensitive information from leaving our accounts. So we can do that through tools like the data loss prevention. So we can trigger for keywords to make sure that if it's within policy or not, it is allowed or disallowed. So really on the enterprise tier, we're trying to prevent bad actors from gaining access to our information, prevent sensitive data from leaving it, and then having visibility into control of all of that. So if security is something that's been relevant to you and your organization recently, as it increasingly is for everybody, definitely want to check out enterprise and let us know if you want to see what those features are. We're happy to demo them, go through any individual pieces of it, and see if it's even going to be relevant for you. But one last thing we like to do on these kind of events is highlight our customers. You might have saw a clip of Tim here at the beginning of the call, but also want to highlight it here. Tim has been a Workspace customer of ours for a very long time, for many years, and has recently been getting very heavy into Gemini. And I just wanted to highlight here a case study that we did with Google and how that's been working for them. So I'll play this and myself.
One of the biggest surprises for Gemini for Google Workspace has been the predictive nature that we weren't expecting. My name's Tim Touche. I'm the founder of Attaché Corporate Housing. Our mission is to provide joy in every stay. We use Google for all of our internal communication, all of our resources. It acts as a central brain for our company. Gemini for Google Workspace is a game changer. So we track a lot of data. Historically, a lot of it just would sit in a spreadsheet. With Gemini, we were now able to use that to make predictive analysis on what could possibly go wrong, knowing the time of year and the properties. One way we measure the success of that is just by calls. The number of calls that we received are down 80% from new arrivals. That tells us they're happy. That tells us they've found the right place. That tells us they're able to love their experience.
Awesome. Love that. That's just a quick, individual use case on Gemini. We'll get more into that later. And thanks for everybody letting me go through the kind of baseline of Workspace and where we're standing today. Want to get to the details now with Asher and see what's new over the past year. Thanks, Asher.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Hi, everyone. My name's Asher Thompson. I've been a Googler for a little over 5 years now, and for the last 3+ years have been working exclusively with small and medium businesses like yours to make sure you're getting the most out of Google Workspace, share the awesome things we're doing, and in truth, being an advocate internally to make sure that as we're building features and those are rolling out, that we're building it with this cohort of users in mind. So incredibly grateful for y'all joining us today. Just to set a little bit of a baseline, in 2024, we have released over 300 new features. We don't have the ability to go through all of those, nor do you want me to go through all of those. What I'll do during this time is we're going to do a very high level, the features that small and medium businesses have found the most success in using. At the end of this, we're also going to share how you can subscribe to either the Google Workspace Updates blog or an automated webhook that just will send your team a nice little notification whenever something's live. In truth, we actually saw one of these features went live earlier today, and Grace and I were pinging about it. We're going to break this into 3 categories. To start with artificial intelligence. Last year, we released what we call Duet for Google Workspace, which we've rebranded to be Gemini for Google Workspace. Since that has come out just in the last 3 quarters, here are the features which have come to that. There are a ton, key ones being take notes for me. So as you can see in the top of our screen, Gemini's taking notes. We'll send over those notes at the end of this meeting, either today or tomorrow, so that you're able to see what does Gemini taking notes of a meeting look like. We've got different features like Google Vids. If you joined a little early, we had a video playing about Google Vids. It's our newest editor. So we've got docs, slides, sheets, forms. Google Vids is the same thing except a video editor, all cloud-based, all browser-based. And then we also have AI formula and sheets. This came recently to us, and we are incredibly grateful for that, mostly because I use Google Sheets a ton. I do not write Google Sheets formulas incredibly well, but I can put in natural language, just write a sentence or two about what I'm looking for, and Google Sheets will create formulas for me. As I mentioned, Google Vids came earlier this year. It's our AI-powered video creation app, meaning that you are able to, with giving it a prompt like a Google Doc or a Google presentation that you've already been working on, or just writing out a sentence or two about what you're looking for, it can use stock image, which we have full rights to allow you to use commercially, and be able to create a full video from beginning to end. Next is communication and time management. Few things here. So data classification, if you need the ability to set specific rules about emails, like, okay, this email cannot be forwarded outside of the organization, or this email can only stay within the finance department. We do now have data classification labels, the same thing that used to exist in Drive, now for mail as well. We have the board in Google Chat. So being honest, you'll have noticed that Google Meet has gotten a lot better since COVID. We took a lot of our chat engineers and threw them at our video conferencing problem in 2020. And now they're freed up. We're putting a lot of emphasis in the next year of our roadmap looking at Google Chat. One of the things that came here is boards. Boards is something where when you're in a space, you're able to pin things on the side. It also will intelligently add recent conversations or things that are being commonly referenced there as well, so that you're not having to scroll up and try to find content. Video messaging in Google Chat. If you are like me and the way that I type is pretty bland, and my tone is not always well represented, we've added where you can record audio to send. Now you can record a video and send that if you want to be able to add that personalization, or sometimes, as you know, it's easier just to explain something out loud than type it all out. And then something that we did today, which is incredibly helpful, is pre-configuring Google Meet artifacts, meaning that before this meeting started, I had already turned on, hey, once the host joins, we're going to start recording, we're going to start transcription, and we're going to start take notes for me for Gemini, so that I didn't have to remember to set those up, and that I also didn't have to worry about forgetting. The last of these three sections is content collaboration, so looking at our editors. One thing is that we are working on increasing the interoperability of Google Workspace with other providers. One way that we're doing that is through smart links in Sheets. So what you'll notice is in all Google editors, Docs, Drive, Slides, Sheets, all that, if you do the @ sign, you'll now be able to reference things like other documents, and it will create this nice little chip. In Sheets, we're working on making sure that not just that, you're able to reference other areas where you can extract data and find dashboards, so that we're able to integrate well with things, with third-party providers. Tables in Google Sheets. If you want a nicely formatted table when you're starting a Google Sheet, on the right-hand side, you should start getting a pop-up where you're able to click on that. It's not going to have data in there, but it is going to have a really nice formatted document where you can start, where there's already drop downs. For example, a project management sheet. There's already a drop down for in progress, blocked, all of that fun stuff. So you're not having to set things up from scratch, and it looks pretty good as well. We've got more styles in Google Docs, as well as we actually have more styles in Google Slides as well. So we're all very familiar with the 6 old styles that Google Slides and the basic Google Docs that used to be able to be created. We've now created a lot of new, really attractive designs that you can quickly launch when you're creating new documents. And then this is the one which I am most excited about. E-signature has officially come to Google Docs and Google Drive. So similar to a tool like DocuSign, we have the ability to accept signatures, send things out, track that through the process. This is an incredibly helpful tool and hopefully will help consolidate some of your spend. So you're already paying for Workspace, might as well use the tools you're paying for. We're going to have Grace Hutchison, who is the much smarter than me engineer here at Google Workspace for small business, do a quick demo of this product.
Awesome.
Off to you, Grace.
Sure, appreciate it. Nice to meet everyone. Like Asher was saying, I'm a Google Workspace customer engineer here at Google, work on the same team as Asher with small to medium-sized businesses, helping to answer any technical questions, run any demos. Let me go ahead and start by sharing my screen so we can see e-signature in action. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and start off in this document here. And like Asher was talking about earlier, originally when we first launched eSignature this year, it was only available in Docs, but today we just announced it's also going to be coming to PDFs as well, and that's currently rolling out. So be on the lookout for that this month. Now, within Google Docs, I have this proposal document here that I do need to get signed by another employee. This could also be someone outside of the organization within Google Workspace. Now, we're going to start by inserting our e-signatures by going to Insert, and here we have these e-signature fields where we have all of these blocks that we can go ahead and insert into this document. I'm going to go ahead and just insert this at the bottom here, and we'll go ahead and add in that signature. Whenever I click on it, it's just going to go ahead and add it to wherever my cursor is, but this does work like a normal shape within Docs. So if we want to go ahead and move it back up, maybe we want it to be at this timeline here, we could go ahead and move it there. Now we can continue to add as many as we want. I'm also going to go ahead and add in that date sign there since I do want this dated on that proposal. And now we just need to go ahead and actually sign this to a signer. Now it just says signer 1 here because I haven't specified who I want to sign this yet. So I'm going to go ahead and go into manage signers, and here's where we can add as many signers as we want to. So we'll go ahead and add in Max here. We're going to have him sign this document. Now, once we save it, we'll be able to go back to that box, and now we can see that's actually assigned to Max. And if we have multiple signers here, we'll be able to choose who we want to assign that box to. Now, let's say we're all happy with our e-signature fields. We're now going to go ahead and actually send this signature request to Max. So let's go ahead and actually request it. It is going to give us a name of a document that we want to show up whenever Max receives it. Now, for Google Docs specifically, it's going to go ahead and basically lock everything into this document by creating a PDF and sharing that PDF version with Max, and that's what we're going to have him sign. This is so that let's say Asher came onto this proposal document and started making edits to it, Max is still going to have that locked version before when I requested the e-signature, and now our Google Doc is going to have those edits, but Max isn't going to be able to see it. Now we're going to go ahead and enter in Max's email address here. And we can put in a message of what we want Max to know about this. So we'll just ask him to please sign. And we can also specify an audit trail language for this. It doesn't necessarily just have to be English. We do have quite a few languages here that we support. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead and request that signature. And now it's going to create that PDF like I was mentioning. Once we actually click on that PDF, we can open that up and we can see that that signature is pending for Max here. And we have the signature fields down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually switch on to Max's profile here, and we'll go ahead and see what it looks like from that end user perspective to actually sign that document. So we'll go ahead and switch over to Max. And within here, Max will also be receiving an email that is letting him know that he does need to sign this with that message that we just sent to him. But once he actually clicks on that, we're then going to see this PDF where we can go ahead and start signing it. So once I click on sign, it's going to walk me through this document. I can scroll through it, read all of the features, proposals here. And then it's going to go ahead and let me sign the signature block. Now it's automatically going to enter in that date of whenever I clicked sign. And once we click on that signature block, all we have to do is enter in our full name and initials. So we'll do Max Brown here and do MB again. And it's going to change all of our text into an actual handwritten signature that we can insert into this document. So once we clicked on adopt and sign, it's going to go ahead and insert that signature. Now, once we're all done and everything has been filled out, we're now going to be able to hit this Mark Complete button. And from there, we just have to agree to the terms and service, essentially telling Google that we are allowing our signature to be used as an actual signature for this document. Once here, we actually agree and continue. We're all set to go, and we can go ahead and close out this window. Now, on Grace's side, we're going to be able to actually see that audit trail and when Max signed that. So when we go back to Grace's side of that PDF, we can see that that signature was complete. And if we view those details, we can now see in here that Max signed it. It says just now, but if we viewed this a couple minutes later, it would give us the exact timestamp of when he signed it, as well as below on this document, we're going to have a full audit trail that we can use later if we need to go back and actually audit this signature. So a really great start to the e-signature here. Like I mentioned, this is also going to be coming to PDFs this month as well. So be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Asher.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Grace. And actually, what we saw earlier today is that the PDF feature is now actively rolling out. So as Grace mentioned, it's coming to you later this month. Whenever we launch something in Workspace, we don't throw it into everyone's account all at once just to make sure that things are working nicely and properly, but it's going to be coming soon. Liz asked if someone without a Google account, can they still sign? Absolutely, they can still sign. They're going to get an email. When they click on it, they're going to get a code that gets sent to their email to authenticate that their email is their email. They paste that in, and then they just sign as regular. I recognize there's some other questions. We'll make sure that we get to those in our Q&A time. Let's jump back in. So as I mentioned, this year we've had over 300 different features come out. There is no way that you can keep on track of all of those on your own. And in truth, even as account managers and folks that work with Workspace, we don't always know everything that comes out exactly when it does. There's two ways that we stay up to date with that. One of it is that you can subscribe to the Google Workspace Updates blog, workspaceupdates.googleblog.com. The other one, and this is not an official Google product, but it's something that our teams built. You can build a webhook into a space. We'll be sharing this a recording of this video out, so you'll be able to reference this link again. This will allow it to send you a notification whenever a new feature comes out. So I have it in my team space for the small business experts. Every time a new feature comes out, we have it's a bot that posts and says, hey, there's this new thing. And then we're able to treat it just like a regular message. We can reply to it, add links, all of that fun stuff. We've moved pretty quickly, but what we're excited to talk about next is Gemini for Google Workspace. Gemini is the name that we've given to several of our artificial intelligence tools. Gemini for Google Workspace comes in a few flavors that we'll get to. But before we jump in, we want to share a quick 1-minute video about how businesses are using Gemini.
Gemini for Google Workspace is becoming a part of our way of life. I personally leverage Gemini in Google Docs to create a 1-page summary of observability and monitoring tools. What Gemini gave me was CTO ready. Anytime I get back from Gemini, helps me spend more focus hours doing the things that really need my attention.
Some of the most exciting experience that we saw with Gemini for Google Workspace was around generating content for our HR team and our hiring manager. It was a win for both to become more efficient on delivering these job descriptions that helped us with hiring our external talent.
I see a great opportunity for Gemini for Workspace as a great productivity tool, but I especially like the captioning feature within Google Meet. That feature alone expands equity and accessibility across all users.
The combination of the Vertex AI platform and the Google Workspace platform gives us the toolkit to take burden off of highly qualified scientists and clinicians so that we bring medicines to market faster. There are documents that we create that could take weeks. Today, we can create that first draft in minutes.
I'm so excited to see where Google takes Gemini next.
Oh, Ashley, just need to unmute.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks so much. Being truthful, when we started talking about AI in Google Workspace, I thought that this was a bit of a fad that we had back in the end of last year. And in truth, if you started with Duet for Google Workspace, there were a few features where you were like, not quite sure that this is what we need. I don't really need a poem in my inbox. That has changed drastically. Personally, I use Gemini to write between a quarter and a third of my email responses. And as we go through today, Grace is going to do a demo to show what a day in the life of a Gemini user is. Let's jump back into our presentation. Sorry, I stopped sharing it. When we talk about Gemini for Google Workspace, there's 4 flavors that this is. There's Gemini Business and Gemini Enterprise, which are a collection of advanced features. As Grace goes through her demo today, we'll be able to see what those look like. For more niche use cases, we do have smaller licenses around AI security and AI meetings and messaging. Just to be clear, both of these feature sets all exist within Gemini Enterprise, but our AI security set is for typically highly regulated industries that need to be able to go through tens of thousands of documents and automatically classify what type of document and who should have access to. And then AI meetings and messaging is going to be all of the features in chat as well as the advanced features in Google Meet. Now, when we launched Gemini, we did survey over 3,000 users who piloted the product, and we've got 2 great stats. One of which is that users are saving an average of 105 minutes per week. That's an hour and 45 minutes that you're able to get back in your week on average. And the other is that the vast majority of users are using Gemini regularly enough, and it has become such a part of their work stream that they would miss it if it was taken away. Meaning that this isn't just a feature that folks are adding to a license and people aren't noticing or aren't necessarily using. Of the folks that use it, it becomes an instrumental part of how they do their day-to-day work. When we're talking about AI at any tech company, we do want to be incredibly clear on what Gemini does and does not do with your data. Gemini falls under the existing Google Workspace data policies that you've signed with us. To be clear, your data is your data. We will not use anything that you put into Gemini on a paid subscription to train our model. We're not going to retain any of the information or prompts that you put in. And we're not going to allow Gemini to look at information from other users when on your user account. Meaning that if I was to ask Gemini a question when I'm logged into my user account about, I don't know, Q4 financial performance for Google, it's going to be able to look at Google Docs and slides and all different content that I as an individual user have access to. But any document that exists within our organization, whatever Sundar Pichai, our CEO, has, it's not able to reference any of that and pull that into any of its responses. We're happy to answer more clarification around any of our data protection use cases, but do want to be clear, your data is your data. It follows the exact same, the existing Google Workspace data protection addendum. Awesome. So we've covered all that. And now I think what is probably the most exciting part of our time today, Grace is going to jump into a demo of what it looks like to be a Gemini for Google Workspace user.
Awesome. Thanks, Asher. All right, let's just get right into it, and we'll go ahead and start off in Gmail here. Now, I will note, like Asher was talking about earlier, we came out with a Gemini originally when it was called Duet AI all the way last year. And since then, we've made a lot of advancements to Gemini. There are so many features now that we're just not going to be able to go over all of them today. But I am going to be highlighting some of the top features that I feel are most useful to all of your employees, or almost all of your employees. So let's go ahead and start off in Gmail here. Now, within Gmail, we have two Gemini for Workspace features. First, we have this side panel on the right-hand side. You can kind of think about this as a mini conversational AI chatbot that lives throughout most of your Google Workspace applications that you can use to ask questions around what you're seeing on the screen, get quick summaries, as well as get some insights from Gemini. Now, within Gmail, let's say I'm just coming back from out of office. I know I said yes to a project before I left, and I really want to make sure that I didn't miss any communications on that. Now, I have quite a lot of emails here waiting for me. I'm going to get to those later. Instead, I'm just going to have Gemini help me find this project email first. So we're going to start by asking Gemini to find me emails from Max, since I know that he was in that thread, related to our project name, which is Joe's Coffee. All right. Now, once I actually hit enter and give Gemini this prompt, it's going to start looking through all of the emails, again, that I only have access to as my own user here. So here we have these emails from Max related to Joe's Coffee, and we can see that we have an unread one here. So we'll go ahead and open that up. Now, we could go ahead and read through this entire thing, but I am trying to get quickly started on this project this morning. So instead, I'm just going to have Gemini summarize this for me. Now, sometimes Gemini will give your users prompt suggestions based on what they've asked for before or what they're looking at, so that they don't have to come up with the prompt every single time. And that's what we're seeing down below with what's this email about. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that and quickly get that summarization. So here we can see that Max asked us to lead that proposal for Joe's Coffee. Ruth, another employee, is providing some target customer insights, and then the deadline is Friday. So it looks like there was a deadline, which is great. So we actually know when we need to get this done by. But I also want to ensure that I know what my action items are and that I didn't miss anything from when I came back from out of office. So I'm going to have Gemini find me those in this email by just asking, what are my action items? Now, I personally use this a lot in my own email just to find customer questions. Since I'm working with so many customers during the week, I get so many emails and just trying to find, okay, what did this customer ask me about this specific thing? I'll just go ahead and ask Gemini to find me and pull that information out, as opposed to me having to look through all of my emails, try to figure out what customer it was. Now, here we have our action items. It says that we need to take the lead on putting together that proposal, present that proposal, and also add a slide with Ruth's target customer insights to the presentation. So that's great that we asked for our action items, because I did miss that one. Now, from here, it did look like Max responded back to us and just welcomed us back from out of office. And I do want to go ahead and respond back to him to let us know that we're actually back in office. I will note that we can go ahead and use that side panel to help us write that email response back. Or our second feature is that we have that ability directly baked into the compose new message or reply to a message. So whenever I reply back to that message, I'm going to have this help me write button that shows up here. And I can go ahead and then just have Gemini help me write this email. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just give Gemini a very simple prompt and just tell, we'll thank Max for the welcome back. We'll say thanks for the welcome back here. And once I hit create, it's going to start loading in that email for me. Now, I will note that Gemini does have access to the rest of the thread and everything else that I've responded back with or what Max has responded back with to me. And based off of that, it's not just going to put in the email, "Hi Max, thanks for the welcome back, sincerely Grace," it's going to take everything else into account and then write that email to ensure I'm not missing anything. So here's why we're seeing, "Hi Max, thanks for the welcome back. It was definitely relaxing. Happy to jump into things. I don't have any questions at the moment, but I'll let you know if anything changes. I'm looking forward to putting together that presentation. Thanks, Grace." So now we have a really full-fledged email that we can send Max quickly. Now, let's say maybe we weren't happy with this email. Gemini gave us a great place to start, but I don't really like the way that this is worded. We do have the ability to change this. We can click on the recreate button, basically telling Gemini, I want to keep the same prompt, but I want you to reload in the email, make it a little bit different. Or we can give it specific parameters around how we want to change it. Do we want it to be a formal tone, elaborate it, or shorten it? In this example, I am really liking this email, so we'll go ahead and just insert it. And then from here, we have this plain text. So we can go ahead and continue to edit it further, as well as we do have those refinement options that we can always go back to. I personally like to start a lot of the drafts of my emails. So usually I'll write the draft first and then just click on polish to have Gemini kind of polish it up, make it sound a little bit more nicer, use better grammar. And then from here, once we actually are happy with that email, I'm just going to go ahead and send that off to Max. So now that we've got all of our communications done for the day, let's go ahead and actually jump into our Gemini app next, which is our standalone AI conversational chatbot to help us get started on some research for Joe's Coffee. Now, within here, I will note that, like Asher was talking about earlier, we do have something what's called the Gemini app, which is already free to your users who have a paid workspace license. Now, what we're talking about here today is Gemini Advanced, which is an advanced version of the Gemini app and comes with additional functionalities that's specifically included with Gemini for Workspace. And I'll be talking more about those features that are specific to Gemini for Workspace today. But now, just to start and kind of give an overview or an idea of just what Gemini app is, it's meant for you to ask questions. It can go ahead and help you write items as well as summarize things. So we're just going to start by asking Gemini to do some research for the target customers for Joe's Coffee. I already have a prompt ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and tell Gemini a little bit more around who Joe's Coffee is, as well as if it can research those top related marketing trends, give me ideas of how my marketing agency can use them to help Joe's increase revenue. And once I hit submit, Gemini is going to start loading in that response. Now, this is something that you're already going to have access to today with the Gemini app. Outside of this, so we can see all that content that Gemini gave us with the trends and the ideas of how that directly relates back to Joe's Coffee. So some really great ideas here. Now, outside of this, of what you already have today, with Gemini Advanced specifically, it's going to give you the ability to not only prompt Gemini with text, but also add in images as well as files. So within here, you'll be able to upload up to 10 files per prompt, and you can add that in from your own personal drive or upload files from your direct computer. Additionally, you can upload images directly from your computer as well. Now I'm going to step aside from that Joe's Coffee marketing example and just kind of go through some examples of just using Gemini Advanced overall. First, with that image upload feature. Now, I personally use the image upload feature a lot. I still take handwritten notes. I'm one of the few, and I love to just take a photo of it, upload it into Gemini, and have Gemini take all those notes, turn it into plain text, and then have it transform that into an email that I can then use to send follow-ups to customers. It just makes it a lot simpler without me having to prop up the notes and manually type it into a doc. Another example of this is I see a lot of customers use this feature for, as opposed to doing manual data entry, having Gemini put data into a sheet instead. Here, I just uploaded a photo of a participant list with a last name, first name, as well as organization. And I just asked it if it could enter this data into a sheet. From there, it went ahead and extracted out all that information, put it into a nice table for me here. And then I can also export this out to Sheets, where it's going to put that table fully in Sheets. And then I can then continue to use it to use Gemini to create formulas, which we'll see a little bit later. So it's really nice to use Gemini for more of these automated processes instead of having to do that manual stuff that might take you more than 10, 15 minutes at a time and can now just take a couple seconds using Gemini. Now, outside of that image upload feature and the file upload feature, we also have the ability to use gems in here. Now, for those who are familiar with the term GPTs, it's very similar to that. Essentially, gems are versions of Gemini Advanced that you can preload with context so that every time that you're talking to it, you don't have to give it that information every single time. It's already going to know, for example, I have one that I tell it, I am Grace, I work at Google. All I want you to do is just help me answer questions for customers, or I want you to do a kind of, I'll have one that I do a little role play scenario, or I'll have it ask me difficult questions and I have to try and answer them, and they're all workspace related. So instead of me having to prompt Gemini with the same prompt every single time, I just build a gem, put that context in there, and now it knows whenever I'm talking to it that I want it to act as that customer. Now, another example of this is I've created one ahead of this call for sheets analysis. So whenever you're creating a gem, you're going to be able to title it, add in those context or that instructions, as well as you can give it a knowledge base of files. So you can give it up to 10 files that you can have it reference while you're talking to it as well. Now, in this example, I've just asked it to act as a financial data analysis expert in the furniture market, and I gave it the instructions that I wanted to analyze 2 quarterly reports that I'm going to be giving it, and then do the following. Now, if I am a user who isn't as familiar with writing prompts or this context, we do have this rewrite button here that will help you rewrite the instructions and kind of elaborate it more for those who may not be as familiar with writing that. Now, an example of this actually in action here is I did run this a little bit before the call, and I gave it these 2 CSV files in this gem. I just told it to analyze these. I didn't have to give it all that context again because it already has those instructions. From there, it went ahead and took those 2 CSV files and then started those instructions. I first asked for a table of both of these sales over both quarters. It gave me that back in a bar format. Additionally, if we do want to go ahead and customize this further, we can change the bar or the graph type as well as the titles. Additionally, if we want to view it in a table, we can export this out to sheets. Maybe we want to create a pivot table instead in there, but it's giving us a really great place to start. In addition to that, I asked it to give me a summary of differences in sales between both quarters, went ahead and gave me that, and then I wanted the average prices across all regions and both quarters. Now, for your use cases, it may not, in some instances, finish the entire thing, but really what I love about gems is that it gives you a really great place to start. Maybe it's only going to shave off 30 minutes from something that would take an hour long, but it's incredible that you can at least save that time to be able to do something else, or at least get your work-life balance back. Now, with Gemini Advanced here, the last thing that I did want to note additionally that is specific to Gemini Advanced that you don't have with the Gemini app currently is the ability to do image generation with people. Now, I've seen a lot of marketing companies have success with using Gemini Advanced for creating marketing content with people in it, and you can get pretty specific with it as well. Now, this is just an example. I gave Gemini a pretty simple prompt of just asking, can you create an image of a man riding a scooter in front of a coffee shop? And we can continue to ask Gemini to change pieces in here or create a new image, but it's pretty cool what Gemini can create so far just based off of one simple prompt here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and jump back into our Joe's Coffee example, and let's go back into Docs here. Now, within Google Docs, we do have quite a few features in here. First is Help Me Create, and this is really meant for users to just get started within Docs. And I'm going to give Gemini a prompt that I already have prepared for this. Now, I'm just going to ask Gemini to help me create that marketing proposal for Joe's Coffee for that 3-month engagement with Joe's. And I also want to identify some best marketing outlets for their target customers. And once I hit create, Gemini is going to start taking that prompt in, kind of give load in some examples for me, and also give me titles for this proposal as well, so that I don't have to worry about adding in a specific font or a bigger header for titles. It's going to go ahead and take that work out for me. All right, compiling info. Let's see what it can create for us. Okay, so we have that marketing proposal here, prepared for Joe's Coffee, today's date, and then it's giving us that introduction, like I mentioned, with those headers here, as well as it's already created document tabs for us to quickly move through this document. timeline, it's given us this awesome table to get started with, as well as giving us some ideas for budget and conclusion. So from here, we can continue to edit this how we see fit, but it's great that I didn't have to spend all this time just trying to get a draft put together. Now, another example of using Gemini within Docs is with the side panel. So the side panel is available within Gmail, Docs, Slide Sheets, as well as Drive. Now, specifically within Google Docs, one of my favorite features is having Gemini find insights across other files that you might already have access to yourself. In this example, we have a document of the types of target customers of Joe's Coffee. And since we're in a marketing use case here, it's very likely that I'm already going to have marketing proposals done for other coffee shops before that I could use to help inform this new proposal or these new information for Joe's Coffee. So I'm actually going to have Gemini help me find some insights from another proposal that this marketing has done before. So we're going to start by asking Gemini to pull some insights from a particular document. And whenever I type in the @ symbol across any of the side panels, I'm going to be able to point Gemini in the direction of a particular file, and I'll be able to add up to 10 files per prompt. So I know that we have an espresso 24/7 prompt here, or a proposal that we've already done a while ago. And I want to see if maybe there's some ideas there that Gemini could pull out for me that could help me out with Joe's Coffee here. So I'm just going to ask, can you pull insights that would help me market better to Joe's Coffee customers? So basically in the back end, what it's going to do is it's going to look at that espresso 24/7 marketing proposal, see if there are any differences or similarities between the Joe's Coffee document that we have here, and then pull out things that could be relevant to Joe's Coffee based on what was done for espresso 24/7. And like Asher was talking about before, everything in the side panel, I'm only going to be able to see as my user. Now, if I want to go ahead and actually add this into the document for others to see, I can go ahead and click on this insert button here. So we can go ahead and actually insert it into the document. So now anybody else who has access to this document will be able to see all of this great insights that Gemini pulled out for us here, such as developing a compelling brand story. And I really like that Gemini is tying it back specifically to Joe's Coffee, so we can get some ideas of how we could use it for this particular proposal. This is just, again, one example of a way that you can use Gemini not only with text, but as well as pointing it to files to help pull some of those insights out. Now, I know we're running short on time, but I just wanted to go ahead and end on one of my favorite features here, which is within Sheets. Now, Asher was talking about this earlier, the ability to have Gemini create formulas for you directly within Sheets. I am also by no means a power user of Sheets. I'm constantly going to Google search, trying to figure out what the formula is that I need for a particular use case, and then how do I change that formula to actually fit my data. Instead, Gemini can do all of that work for you. Now, here we just have a table that I actually created with Gemini with our Help Me Organize feature here to help me get started. But I want to go ahead and figure out in this example, I have this budget and I have all of these tasks. I just want to quickly understand what task is going to be the highest budget for me. And I want to ensure that it's going to be constantly updating based on the data that we put in here. So I'm going to start by just asking Gemini to create a formula that calculates the task with the highest budget. And I'm actually going to leave that spelling error in there. Gemini does a pretty good job of trying to understand what you're asking for, even if there are a bunch of spelling errors. So here it gave us that XLOOKUP formula, and wherever our cursor is in the sheet, it's going to be able to actually insert that in that cell. So we'll go ahead and insert it, and we can see that it went ahead and put that formula in the formula section for us and also gave us back that result. So we can see that implement a marketing campaign is the highest budget, and that is correct here at 20,000. And since this is a formula, it's going to constantly update whenever we add in data into our sheet. So again, really making it very quickly or making it very quick to go ahead and actually add in those formulas with Gemini. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Asher, and we'll go through some of your Q&A questions.
Thanks so much, Grace. I recognize we moved incredibly quickly and in truth showed you less than half of the features that exist as part of a Gemini for Google Workspace subscription. If there is interest and you want to see more, your UpCurve team is incredibly qualified to help you in those next steps, and we'll be sure to talk through ways that you can get in touch with them. But let's take a moment and look through our Q&A. Feel free to post in our chat. In our chat section. I know that, Liz, we did address yours. Jen asked if there was a way to send a reminder for unsigned documents using the e-signature feature. Grace, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is as it exists today, not natively. That said, workflow management is something that is the guiding light of our 2025 product roadmap. And if you want to discuss more, I know that the UpCurve team has access to that roadmap and would be able to provide a little more insight into what that means. It's a fun little game of NDAs that we have to play just to make sure that we're able to discuss that with a group this big. I don't see any other questions in there. If anyone has any questions on Gemini or anything we discussed, feel free to come off mute. We'll give another 30 seconds or so if anyone's trying to formulate a question.
I have a basic question here. Do individual users have to do anything to add Gemini onto their account? Like, as I'm looking at mine, because I'm not using it yet, I don't have the little star icon on the top of my Gmail. Do I have to, is it an extension? Is it just something that I haven't added on a sidebar yet?
So it's a license that an admin would need to add to your account. So you'd go to admin.
I'm an admin and I just went and checked and it is open on everybody's in our.
Got it. So Google makes interesting decisions. One of the interesting decisions is we have like 40 products named Gemini right now. In your admin console, when you toggled that Gemini on, what it gave access to you to do was to go to gemini.google.com and access the basic feature of the chatbot that Grace was sharing. If you wanted the advanced features that live within your workspace day to day, you would chat with UpCurve and they would be able to talk about provisioning Gemini licenses. It's nice and confusing.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Zach asked, great meeting. How often do we have this meetings? This is the first one that we've had around Gemini, though, Brandon, I don't know how often y'all offer webinars. I know it's relatively frequently.
Yeah, for general updates and things like this quarterly, just kind of a wrap up. If you are interested in more frequent updates, you can get with your client success manager. If you're not sure who that is, then there'll be some information at the end of this that we can talk about how to do so. And we do regular individual QBRs as well, not such with a large group. If you want a one-on-one to kind of discuss how your account is functioning, the features you're using, adoption reports, what's coming down the pike, etc., we're happy to do that one-on-one as well.
Perfect. And then Christian asks, can you add Gemini licenses to a subset of users on an account? Yes. Gemini licenses don't have to be ascribed to every single user. Just being honest in the way that pricing and promotions work, unsurprisingly, the more licenses that are purchased, the better promotional pricing, which is able to be offered. And we have some sort of fun pricing programs that try to get you to have as many users as possible, try it out for a year, and then you could choose how you would choose to handle that in year 2. But yes, if you just said, nope, there's this one subset of users, that's the only folks that need this, totally an option. I don't see any more questions, so we're going to pass it back to Brandon.
Yeah, and speaking of which, reaching out, you can do so there. If you don't know your individual representative, you can just reach out to sales@upcurvecloud.com. Pretty straightforward. You can go on our website and submit a ticket or reply to any of the emails you got for this event. And we'll also be sending a follow-up as well as Asher, I believe, for this, just for more general information. A couple things to leave you with here. We can offer trials of Gemini. If you do want to set it up for a number of users, we're happy to do so. And then we will help you deploy it. We'll assign it to users. We'll provide training for either the admins or the end users or both, go over prompt engineering and all the rest of it. Probably not super heavy lifting. It depends on how much you want. If you want to do a full training with an engineer and get everybody up to their best knowledge on Gemini, we can do so. If you want it a little bit lighter and just want us to kind of go through the basics and let you run with it, happy to do so as well. But feel free to reach out any of those methods, and we'll get started.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you all so much for the time that you spent with us today. We hope you have a great rest of your week and holiday season. If you did enjoy this and want to see what Gemini would look like in your environment, as Brandon said, reach out to your CSM or sales@upcurvecloud.com, and they can work on getting a trial provision so you can get hands-on with the product. Thanks so much, and hope you all have a great day.